Billy Johnson was a game breaker. Born in Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania, Johnson played football, baseball, basketball, and ran track at Chichester High School in Bothwyn, the place that was also responsible for giving life to his famous White Shoes moniker. Following one of his good games, a local reporter gave him the nickname Blazin' Billy White Shoes, and the name stuck. He initially started wearing the shoes after being dared by a friend to emulate Joe Namath, who also wore white cleats. Johnson would oblige and had 2 pairs of black cleats dyed, but was a bit timid about wearing the shoes in front of his old school, no-nonsense coach. Johnson eventually built up the courage and broke them out. When confronted about them, he said that they made him run faster, a tale his coach would buy into. After a stellar high school career, Johnson did receive some attention from bigger schools, but largely for track. Many programs were scared off by his 5'9", 170-pound frame, along with his desire to play football and run track, except for a local Division III school in Chester, Pennsylvania, named Widener. Located only 15 minutes from where he grew up in Marcus Hook, Johnson decided to accept a scholarship to play halfback, and cites it as one of the best decisions he ever made, as going to a small school allowed him to touch the ball frequently and find his niche. Widener would also be the place where his famous funky chicken celebration originated, and celebrate he did, scoring an absurd 62 times during his college career. Interestingly enough, the dance was a bit of a spontaneous decision, and it started after Johnson promised skeptical teammates that he would do something exciting after scoring against a rival team. Once in the end zone, the first thing that came to mind was singer Rufus Thomas's funky chicken dance, which was not only popular at the time, but easy to do. The crowd loved it, and Billy would continue dancing his way to the tune of nearly 3,800 rushing yards and over 5,400 all-purpose yards over his 3 years in college. He would be named an All-American twice and broke several school, conference, and NCAA records. Despite the success, his lack of size and D3 pedigree made his NFL prospects bleak. Fortunately, the Houston Oilers believed in his abilities and selected him in the 15th round of the 1974 draft. Despite being a low pick, Johnson would benefit from entering the league at a time when many veterans were on strike, affording him playing time early on. He was quickly winning over coaches, while becoming a fan favorite for his electric playing style and dance moves. Johnson would make huge strides his sophomore season, finishing the year first in return touchdowns with 4 and second in total return yards with 1,410. He would be named a first-team All-Pro and not only earned his first Pro Bowl bid, but was named MVP of the game after returning a punt 90 yards for a touchdown. White Shoes was reshaping how the league viewed special teams, specifically return specialists. Year 3 would be another decorated year for Johnson, as he recorded a career-high 495 receiving yards and was 5th in total return yards. Year 4 would follow suit, and Johnson would tie for a league-leading 3 kick return touchdowns, and was 3rd in return yards. He also managed an additional 412 receiving yards and 3 scores on a mere 20 receptions, earning him a second first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowl bid, while proving he was much more than just a returner. Sadly, he would suffer a season-ending knee injury early in the 1978 season, and suffered another one the following year, limiting him to 2 games in 1979. Unfortunate timing, as the team had just drafted running back phenom Earl Campbell, and had made deep postseason runs in both of those years. While he did return in 1980, he was still hindered by the knee, and did not return any kicks. In somewhat of an expected move, the Oilers grew impatient, and released the former playmaker after 7 years with the club. Understandably, other teams were apprehensive about signing Johnson, but he knew he still had plenty left in the tank, and just needed a way to prove it. So he went to the CFL for 1 year and shined, catching 65 passes for 1,060 yards and 5 touchdowns for the Montreal Alouettes. He also had nearly 600 punt return yards, but most importantly, he showed NFL teams he was both healthy and still very capable of producing at a high level. The Atlanta Falcons would end up rolling the dice and taking a flyer on him ahead of the 1982 season. After his tenure got off to a slow start in year 1, he would break out in year 2, doubling as a starting wide receiver and full-time kick returner. He ended up catching a career-high 64 passes for 709 yards and 4 scores. For his efforts, he would win Comeback Player of the Year and be named a first-team All-Pro and selected to the Pro Bowl for the 3rd time. The following season, Johnson will be limited by injuries, and in a noteworthy development, the NFL had implemented what became known as the Gastineau rule, named after the star defensive end who was known for his excessive celebrations following sacks, essentially pulling the plug on celebratory moves, which meant if Johnson wanted to avoid hurting his team with unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, he would have to retire the funky chicken. Unaffected by the rule, Johnson would come back strong in 1985, and went on to lead the Falcons in receiving with 62 receptions for 830 yards and 5 touchdowns. Injuries would once again slow Johnson down in 1986, and with him aging, he knew his time in the league was coming to an end. He would play sparingly for 2 more seasons before retiring in 1988. A member of the NFL 1970s and 1980s All-Decade teams, Johnson is one of the most successful and impactful return specialists in NFL history. Also a member of the NFL's 75th anniversary all-time team, he is the only player on the list not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A workout warrior, Johnson never let his small frame define him, and let his play, along with his dance moves, do the talking. I want to thank you for watching, and I would love to hear your thoughts on how White Shoes impacted the game, and if you believe he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.